fascinating biosphere. Let's go explore.
Hey guys, it's me, Alexa from Alexa Plays Games. Today I'm really excited to share some tips and tricks for playing my favorite tank counter, Bay. I know what you might be thinking. Tank counter? Isn't she classified as a marksman? Yes, but trust me, ask any pro and they'll agree with me. Bay is more controller and tank counter than anything else. Now, if I were to put together a list of brawlers I'm best at, Bay would definitely be in my top 5. Probably top 3 actually. She was the second brawler I did a mastery push for. Yes, the mastery push that I met my Brawlentine Eddy during, and he's been carrying me ever since. But the reason I waited so long to make Bay Baby a guide is because she didn't have a Hypercharge, and I realized after I made Janet's guide that I should wait for her Hypercharge to be released before making a guide. So once Supercell finally got around to giving Bay a Hypercharge, I happily started making this guide because, to be honest, I love Bay Baby so much that getting her mastery title on my main clearly wasn't enough for me, seeing as I kinda sorta accidentally also got her mastery title on my mini account as well. Mostly by accident, because my first mastery push truly made me fall in love with Bay, although I did push once I realized I was close. If you're curious, make sure to check out the video I made back then. Well, after watching this guide, of course, so stick around if you want to be the bee's knees, just like my girl, Bay.
Let's go explore.
This is my preferred build. I know you might be disappointed, seeing as I have a tendency to put together controversial preferred builds for my favorites, but not this time. But that's not to say I don't play around with her build, so let's talk about everything so you can put together a build that works for you. Starting with her gadgets. Now, Bay has 2 really good gadgets, although post-gadget rework, one is definitely outshining the other, but trust me when I say they're both really good. Now, Honey Molasses may be getting overlooked right now, but I wouldn't underestimate this gadget if I were you. Honey Molasses creates a puddle of honey, which slows the enemies who step on it a significant amount.
Beautiful.
A lot of people point to the 20-second cooldown as one of the reasons it's quote-unquote bad now, which I disagree with. It's not bad at all. The gadget, while it does decay over time because it doesn't cover a wide area like Janet's Drop the Base gadget, decays much slower than most turret gadgets. I timed it actually, and it stays on the map for 35 seconds. That's 15 seconds longer than the cooldown, okay? So if you use this gadget a bit carelessly and it gets destroyed easily, the 20-second cooldown will feel like forever, but if you use it properly, it's actually no issue whatsoever. This gadget, like other turret gadgets, can be used for self-defense by tanking shots or slowing down aggressive brawlers that want to jump on top of you and give you kissies. However, it's also incredibly useful for control. You can trap enemies or cut off key entrances with it, and if you're using it for the latter, 35 seconds on the map with a 20-second cooldown can make all of the difference in a control-based mode like Hot Zone or Gem Grab. Her other gadget, Rattled Hive, which is more commonly referred to as her spinny gadget, is definitely stealing the limelight away from Honey Molasses though, seeing as this gadget is easy to spam the entire game since you should always find value as long as one enemy is around for you to target. With Rattled Hive, Bay unleashes 4 angry bees which follow a spiral pattern, damaging your enemies up to 1200 damage if they make contact. Now, I get it. Full clipping an enemy with this gadget is one of the most satisfying things in the game, Brawl Stars. Also, dealing 1200 damage each hit is kinda busted broken, seeing as 1200 damage is like the damage a lot of basic attacks deal in the game. Not to mention, spamming angry bees every 20 seconds distance definitely adds to Bei's ability to be an annoying little bee the entire game, but I do foresee a damage nerf to this gadget soon. But for now, it seems like this gadget is going to remain one of the best gadgets in the game post-gadget rework for all of these reasons. While Honey Molasses can get destroyed, there's really no downside to using this gadget even if you don't hit anyone with your angry bees, because this gadget will help you clear key areas and push up the map with your teammates. Keep in mind though, it is most effective if you are in the mid lane, seeing as it allows Bei to control every lane on the map if she's in the mid. If either of your teammates are in trouble, you can use this gadget to help them out while defending your own lane. It's also useful for riding down the health of tanky brawlers like the Froggadonk. Just keep in mind, you want your angry bees to rotate around you a bit before making contact with an enemy. The longer the gadget is activated, the more damage your angry bees inflict. The good news for this is most enemies will be careful to dodge the first rotation, but will forget that these angry bees, yeah, they're coming back to finish you off. Both of Bei's star powers are good, although I am definitely partial to one, and unlike my gadgets and gears, I really only stick to one. So let's talk about the star power I neglect first. Instant B-load gives Bei Baby a second chance to hit her supercharged shot if she misses the first one. I get why people love this star power, it's hard hitting her second supercharged shot.
High five!
Any player familiar with Bei's mechanics knows that you need to avoid the second shot at all costs, and so it can be nice having another supercharged shot in your back pocket. Back when I started my mastery push, I definitely felt like I needed this star power because I take her into passive modes and always missed my supercharged shots. However, this was my skill issue. Once I got good at landing that supercharged shot, don't worry, we're gonna cover some strategies I used to improve this skill. I felt like the other star power provided a lot more value, but if you're just getting started with Bei and already have this star power, that might be a good thing. I consider this star power as helpful training wheels for when you're just getting started working on Bei. Just now that I've mastered her, not just once but twice, I just feel like this is unnecessary for me, so I never touch the star power anymore. Now for my preferred star power, Honeycomb. Honeycomb gives Bei a 30% damage reduction shield after she hits her first shot. You might think 30% really isn't a lot, Alexa, but this shield does give Bei an extra barrier of protection that allows her to be more aggressive than other sharpshooters, and I love playing Bei aggressively. She may be squishy because she's classified as a marksman, but she shines best in aggressive mid-range interactions, which is why no matter the map or mode, I prefer to have this shield protecting me so that if I do choose to go on the aggressive and aggro modes, I can stay alive longer juking in her auto-aim sweet spot. Or if I'm playing it safe in passive modes, I have an extra shield protecting me for when I need to heal up. Since Bei is already at a range disadvantage in passive modes, don't worry, we'll get to that later, this star power can help level the playing field if you want to take her into passive modes, which is why this star power is useful no matter the map or mode and pairs well with either of her gadgets. For grassy maps, I'll go Honey Molasses and Honeycomb, and for open, less grassy maps, I'll go Battled Hive and Honeycomb. But no matter the situation, Honeycomb serves me well. Let's hop into her gears. My preferred gears are damage and shield. Now, I'm not usually one to go damage gear unless I truly feel like a brawler lacks damage and needs the buff, but that's not Bei's case. Her supercharged shots without the damage gear already do a lot of damage.
Let's see what's buzzing.
However, when she has her damage gear activated, she absolutely obliterates and deletes brawlers from the face of the earth with her 5,000 damage gear supercharged shots, no matter how tanky they are. This is why my playstyle for Bae is so different compared to other brawlers. For most brawlers, I'll duck back and heal before the damage gear can even be activated. But with Bae, I will keep being an annoying bee until my enemies finally manage to take me out, which means even if I only have 2 HP left, I will keep being annoying and keep being a menace to society. So in other words, I tend to get a lot of value out of the damage gear when I'm locked in and in my bee in your bonnet mode. However, it is important to note that Bae is considered a marksman, and like other marksmen, she's on the squishier side with only 5,000 HP, which means she's tankier than Piper, who only has 4,600 HP but is still squishier than most mid-range brawlers like Jessie, who has 6,000 HP. That's why even though I always go honeycomb, I still go with the shield gear no matter if Bae is diving into an aggressive mid-ranged interaction or playing a passive at max range. Bae will need the extra HP to improve her survivability.
High five!
Now the gadget cooldown gear is relatively new, so I haven't made up my mind fully about this gear, but I think in most cases if a brawler relies on their gadget, it's needed, but if a brawler can stand alone without their gadget, it's not that worth it. In Bae's case, I think some players who are the spam your gadget like crazy type will like it with rattled hive so they can terrorize their enemies, but in general, I don't think it's needed. It does reduce both of the gadgets cooldown, as of the making of this video, to 18 seconds instead of 20. Over the course of the game, that does add up, so it can be beneficial if you're the type to spam gadgets. In my opinion, I'd rather obliterate enemies with the damage gear than spam gadgets, but that's just me. If you like spamming her spinny gadget, you do you.
I'm buzzing!
Now, I do think if you have 1,000 extra coins, you should definitely get the vision gear. The vision gear is so helpful to Bae on maps with a significant amount of grass because you want to get value out of your supercharge shots. If you're not using the vision gear, it's a lot harder to land that shot if your enemies are hiding in the grass. It's also pretty crucial because she is so squishy, so if you want to play her on grassy maps where she does counter a lot of the brawlers attracted to the grass like tanks, it's very important that she can be aware of her enemy's movements, since she will die very easily to surprise attacks, which is why I'll often pair the vision gear with honey molasses for grassy maps to ensure Bae can invade the grass and be a menace to society.
High five!
A gadget that's nice to have, but definitely not necessary, is the speed gear. The speed gear is nice to have because on grassy maps, a lot of tanks will be using the speed gear, so it levels the playing field and helps you maintain a healthy distance from them so they can't run you down. It's not a priority 1 gadget, but yeah, it is nice to have for sure. Last and definitely least is the health gear. Nope, don't get this gear. The only person allowed to use the health gear is Eddy. No one else is allowed. I only got it because I have way too many coins and I was curious why Eddy kept using it, but yeah, no. Bae is way too squishy to get any real value from this gear. Don't do it. Bae's Hypercharge is like insane. It's insane how good this Hypercharge is, you guys, and I always knew it would be good. Like, no way Supercell could mess this one up. And they didn't. They delivered. Bei's Hypercharge, Protect the Queen, on top of the speed, damage, and shield buff, causes her super to split at its max range and continue further past that even when it hits a target. As you might have been able to guess, this allows Bei to slow the entire enemy team, which in and of itself would have been incredibly useful. But unlike other sharpshooters, Bei can't run out of ammo. That means you have a good chance of team wiping all by yourself, and even if you can't reach everyone hit by your Hypercharge super, the slow also helps your teammates take out their targets as well. However, as if this isn't good enough, her damage gear buff stacks with her hypercharged damage buff, which means while she's hypercharged, if her damage gear is active, that means she deals 6,160 damage with her supercharged shot. That's right, you guys. Bei can literally delete a significant amount of the brawlers in the game in one shot with her hypercharged supercharged shot. 6,160 damage. Just let that sink in, you guys. That's insane. Now, if you're broke and you don't have the coins for this hypercharge, is it worth it to save up? Yes, but it's not required. Bei Baby is already a killer bee without her hypercharge. I have been team wiping and racking up ridiculous KD on my end screen for years and years before her hypercharge was even released. Is it worth getting it if you have the coins? For sure, but my girl doesn't need it to be a menace to society. It just heightens her capacity to wreak havoc to a ridiculous extreme.
Believe in yourself.
My girl Bei is definitely misunderstood by many, and not just because no one says her name right, but I have proof. It's pronounced Bei.
If you believe in me, like Rosa believes in Bei, then I finally found the one.
See? Proof I've been right all along. Mahaha. But I digress. The thing about Bei that causes a lot of players to misunderstand her is they see that she's classified as a marksman, then think, well, that probably means she's only viable in passive modes, miss all of her supercharged shots, and then call her trash because she gets outranged. I get it. I've been there. Before I did Bei's mastery push, I also didn't like her. I'd get frustrated because I only took her into like shooting star and I didn't have the skill to land her supercharged shots. In fact, I only did her mastery push because I wanted her title. But since during mastery pushes, I take the brawler into every map and mode, regardless of if they're good there, just to test the waters and really figure out where they shine or if I can play with their build or make them work almost anywhere. I realized that while you can use Bei Baby in passive modes, you can use her there. She's just not the kind of brawler you sit back and snipe with. No, you want to get into the action. Use your jukies to stay alive and unleash your inner killer bee. Bei doesn't shine in passive modes because she's best countering aggression, taking an entire aggressive or tanky team and just wiping them off the face of the earth. So you can get a clear path for your teammates to complete the objective. So I'm not saying don't take her into passive modes.
Let's go explore.
Victory!
But I am saying don't think of her as a passive mode only marksman. She's incredibly versatile.
Specimens to discover. I'm buzzing.
Bei's basic attack has two forms. There's the first weaker shot that deals a relatively small amount of damage, and then the second supercharged or big shot, which will deal critical damage. This can make a lot of players stress out because they think if they miss their supercharged shot, it's the end of the world. But breathe, it's not. But I get why you might be building it up in your head, especially if you're only using her in passive modes. One of Bei's biggest counters is getting outranged. With skill in using your environment to your advantage, you can overcome your counters, but if you look at Piper's, Nani's, and Mandy's range, it's no surprise that Bei has to work harder than them to win in passive modes. All of these brawlers can reach that unbreakable wall with their basic. I mean, Piper needs her homemade recipe gadget, but still. Their range and their supers really have a lot of reach, which means they can sit back and snipe while Bei has to find a way to get into range, putting my girl at a disadvantage.
That stings!
But Bei has something these brawlers don't have, which makes her more versatile than all of them. She only has one ammo bar, which means while Piper, Mandy, and Nani and other sharpshooters will eventually run out of ammo and have to duck back to heal, Bei baby, no matter how cute she looks, is a war machine. She will keep going and going and going until the entire enemy team is dead, and then dance on their graves with a cute smile on her face. So, if you miss a supercharged shot, keep going until you take them down. Bei was designed to be an annoying little bee in the enemy's bonnets. However, I'm not going to just leave it at that. There are some strategies for hitting your shots more reliably. The first is, of course, the most obvious when you're playing a very aggressive in-your-face mode: auto-aim. Honestly, people are so ridiculous when it comes to auto-aim. If I had $1 for every annoying "let's 1v1 with Colt" player disparaging auto-aim, I'd be a millionaire. But the truth is, you can ask any pro this and they'll agree with me. Auto-aim is a tool and you're a big dummy if you don't learn how to use it. When playing Bei at max range, definitely aim every shot. She will very rarely hit her shots at max range if you just auto-aim. I mean, it's possible, but it's very improbable. Auto-aim is also terrible when you're trying to attack someone to the side. It almost always misses them. However, in mid to close range, Bei has an incredibly accurate auto-aim sweet spot. You'll notice that the closer Franck gets to me, the more often I hit him. So once you get into mid-range, it's wise to focus more on your jukes than your aim at that point. Ask any pro. Juking and aiming at the same time takes immense skill that most players, even amazing Masters players or pro players, just don't have. And so knowing when you can switch to auto-aim so you can focus on juking is incredibly important. Keep in mind though, auto-aim may be the best aim, but it can betray you. So if you're auto-aiming and missing like 3 shots in a row, it's time to aim. But having a good awareness of Bei's auto-aim sweet spot is one of the best ways to land a lot of her supercharged shots in aggressive modes like Brawl Ball or Hot Zone when most interactions are mid to close range. But what about max range, Alexa? Well, there are 2 other strategies to keep in mind. The first strategy is predictive aiming. I covered this a bit in Jesse's and Piper's guide, so also check out those guides. But predicting your enemy's movements based on their movement patterns is the best way to land shots at max range. In passive modes, this is all about noticing if the players jerk side to side, runs up and down, or runs in a circular movement like I tend to do. Then you predict which way they're going to try to go when they dodge you. It's all about trying to stay a step ahead of your opponents, like playing a game of chess. For instance, if you see a player running toward a wall and you assume they're trying to run for cover, you aim on their path to safety. The good news is it gets a lot easier to predict for objective-based modes because most of the time your enemies are more focused on the objective than dodging. If you see enemies dashing towards the gems or the ball and you know how you'd do it in their situation, keep that in mind and aim on the best path they could take to achieve the objective. Another strategy is being unpredictable. I cover this in Piper's Guide as well. If your enemies are dodging your shots, you have to try and be a bit unpredictable. Since Bae is a natural mid, if one enemy dodges, aim at another enemy and then go back to your original target with a supercharged shot. I also like to use Rattled Hive when I realize they're dodging me well, because then they get distracted by the angry bees, or if they still focus on me, I can pinch them with it. And like I said earlier, I'll auto-aim sometimes because auto-aim shots are very different from my aimed shots. Sometimes I miss every aimed shot and then auto-aim and somehow land my shot. And like I said, it's a tool. Use it to be unpredictable. You can also start staggering shots. Instead of a steady stream of shots, stagger them a little, like wait an extra second or two in between shots so they don't know when the next shot will happen exactly and can't prepare. This is another reason why I like the honeycomb star power. Sometimes I'll hit my first shot and hold on to my supercharged shot for a while so my enemies can get a false sense of security now that I have paused my tirade as an annoying bee. In the meantime, I'm protected, but once they think, oh, maybe she died or switched positions, it makes them much easier targets. But of course, the most important tool for hitting your supercharged shots is her super. When you hit her super, Bae sends out a swarm of angry bees in a wide V-shape formation, which can slow multiple targets grouped together. Her super does deal a bit of damage depending on how many bees hit your target. This is again another reason why Bae is best in mid-range interactions, because you deal the most damage with her super before her bees fan out. This is another reason why I'll push into mid-range interactions with Bae, because I want to do what I call her super squared combo. I know, clever, right? Which is generally enough damage to delete a lot of brawlers from the game or finish off brawlers who still have most of their HP left. So remember to be ready. Even hitting your enemy with even just one bee will slow them, so this is of course your best tool for taking out your enemies with Bae's supercharged shot, which is why it's wise to have your supercharged shot ready before you hit your super. You don't necessarily have to wait until you have a supercharged shot to use your super. Sometimes I get really in the zone and I forget to make sure, but since the slow only lasts a significant amount of time, it's definitely more effective if you do. Because while Bae never really runs out of ammo, you still do have to wait a bit between shots, and sometimes enemies can get away if you're not completely ready. Also, keep in mind, you need to be in range. Her basic attack is a bit longer than her super, which means her regular super can sometimes not reach your target even if you hit them with your basic attack. So if you're trying to hit someone at your max range with a super squared combo, remember you need to take a few steps closer to your target to ensure your super makes contact with your enemy. And something that absolutely drives me crazy is how often if you hit your super, enemies will duck behind walls to avoid you, and it forces you to waste your super or your hypercharge super. So it's beneficial to make sure there's nowhere for them to hide and you're close enough in range to hit them with a super squared combo to get the most value out of your supers. But it is important to note, you don't need to be stingy with your supers, because as long as your teammates are in range, you can all swarm them, pun intended, and team wipe together. With the gadget rework and Supercell finally getting around to releasing her Hypercharge, Bae Baby is finally getting her time to shine in the meta. She was never really bad, pretty much B tier, pun unintended. for I'd say at least a year, ever since she received a few damage buffs like a year and a half ago. But I would be lying if I didn't say I've been enjoying the A tier status recently. But even if this doesn't last long, it never really does, she's always been one of my go-tos in ranked, and every season I push her to at least 1250 trophies for the Ultra Box because she's just so good and easy to win with consistently. Not to mention, like I said, she's very versatile. Much more versatile than most sharpshooters for sure. It's honestly interesting to me that Bae and Janet were both classified as marksmen. Yeah, two of my top 3 best brawlers, along with Nani, Mandy, and Piper, even though they have shorter ranges, thrive in mid-range interactions, and are way more versatile. It doesn't make sense to me, but okay, Supercell. Whatever makes you happy. But I digress. While drafting Bae, it's important to eliminate her counters in the ban phase. She can dominate a good majority of the brawlers in the game with her range, damage, and control mechanics, but she does have her hard counters. So, let's get into it. So primarily, if you dropped Bae for ranked, it should be to counter tanks. She just rips through tanks. Maybe not as fast as Colette, but definitely more consistently. Since she doesn't run out of ammo like Colette, she can keep going and going and going, meaning her tank torturing will never end until someone manages to take out my girl. Frankadonk does have a gadget to deal with her slow, so be careful to stay out of his range. Honeycomb can protect you, but yeah, Eddy is an amazing Frank and he almost got me.
Be cool.
But other tanks like my poor guy Draco, unfortunately will always struggle into Baby slow and high damage output. But don't be afraid to draft her into short-range brawlers, especially if it's a brawler you want to prevent from getting their super as much as possible, like Sandy. Other brawlers can counter Sandy's Sandstorm itself, but Bae can kill him before he can even get close to her, and that prevents him from getting supers at all. What I consider like a soft counter to Bae are assassins who have perfected surprise attacks, seeing as their non-consensual besitos can deal with Bae pretty easily due to how fast they can unload their damage output compared to her. This is definitely something you can prepare for and thwart with skill and game sense if you can see them coming and keep your distance. But since most assassins, including Daryl and Edgar, can just charge up their hypercharges by existing and doing absolutely nothing, they can surprise you out of nowhere, and Bae can't do much to stop it. It's so unbelievable. Now, if you want a brawler who is all of Bae's counters rolled into one, that would be Juju. She can technically give Bae non-consensual surprise attack besitos with her gadget, but even if she's using her second gadget, she's a thrower, and throwers all counter Bae since they can just sit behind a wall and Bae is too squishy to do anything about it. But even without walls, Juju also outranges her in a more traditional sense with her grass shots. She does have the range of Piper after all while standing in the grass. And to top it all off, Juju has Gree, and pets always counter single shots brawlers like Bae, but especially Gree since it takes 5 of Bae's non-supercharged shots to kill it. It is so unfair. So yeah, don't pick Bae into Juju. She's all of Bae's counters combined into one brawler. But coincidentally, since Bae does hard counter tanks, tanks are actually her best friend, especially tanks that can break open the map for her. While drafting, you do want someone tanky to hide behind in aggressive modes, because as long as they're being aggressive, you can send your colony in as backup and help clear their path and achieve the objective. There's a reason why Eddy always picks his tanks, especially the Frunk, when I want to play Bae. His tanks open up the map and make it easier for Bae to be an annoying little bee, and Bae provides much needed backup and assistance when the enemies inevitably try to torture the tank, as they're wont to do. I think of Bae as a protector. She protects the goal, she protects the zone, and she protects her teammates by standing in the mid and helping everyone win their matchups. So as long as you help them, they'll also be able to protect the queen.
So many specimens to discover!
Well, there you have it. That's everything you need to know to be a queen bee. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, you are goated indeed. Speaking of goats, a big thank you to Eddy, Rikka, Dr. Huesitos and Jotaro Kujo for the carries. Making this guide was so fun because of you guys. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe. I'm making a series of brawler guides, so make sure to check out the guides I've already made and stay tuned for more that are in the works currently. But until then, play later, guys. Mwah!